November 22nd, 1963, Dallas, Texas. The sun is shining. A break from a morning drizzle. Had the weather been different, maybe they would have kept the top up on the presidential limo. Maybe JFK would have lived. Maybe. An assassin ripped out of time and hurriedly trained in sharpshooting and marksmanship grips the 6.5 by 52 millimeter Italian Carcano bolt-action rifle. His heartbeat is slow. His assassin training is locked. The president and the motorcade turns from Houston Street and into Dealey Plaza. The open 1961 Lincoln Continental four-door limousine presents itself. But an assassin trained in the art of jumping off tall buildings into bales of hay intuitively knows a thing or two about physics and timing. He must wait a few seconds more. He has studied the route. He knows where the president is going. Because of his rooftop escapades in a literal cutthroat Italian world of power grabs, he knows he can escape on roofs. But this modern world is a driver's paradise. Escaping on foot from the Texas School Book Depository to a vehicle would be ideal. But he is in a lone building surrounded by mazes of concrete. There is only one way: to blend in, act normal, shoot, and then leave quietly while the chaos engulfs the crowds of Texans.
Downtown Dallas, the first reports say that President Kennedy has been seriously wounded by this shooting.
They don't make them like they used to. A common phrase you may hear now from anyone that grew up in the great time of gaming. Some say a golden age. Before mass adoption of microtransactions and companies seeking shareholder profit at the cost of player fun. The mid-2000s to mid-2010s had some truly great games. From Halo and GTA to what I personally believe the capstone, Witcher 3. Sad that that capstone has become a gravestone for many players. Everyone always says it, but back then felt like simpler times. Coming home from school to play video games, throw in a frozen pizza, and search for Eagle Vision glyphs. After homework and studying, all I had to do was play video games. Oh, so glorious. Oh, I wish I could just for like 2 weeks, just go back in time to when I was in high school and had all that time to play video games. Sucks growing old, boys. It sucks. Assassin's Creed 2 had the story, revenge story. Brotherhood had all the different shops, Romulus lairs, Leonardo missions. A Disney world of cool historical stuff to do. And was it just me, but every time an Animus fact popped up about some historical building or site, I stopped to read it. Why the AC games made 20 years ago had better stories is because they focused on characters. They dropped you in a dope historical setting and let you immerse yourself in it, not to do chores. I mean, I liked Origins and Odyssey. But come on, man, they ain't no Ezio trilogy. But enough about the games. Many have talked about that, and there are great videos to explore. I want to delve into the topic of Ezio and the assassins of the past in our 21st century. How would Ezio fare in our modern world? And maybe the bigger question is, would the assassins from the game actually work in the real world? That's what I want to explore with this channel, ripping things from the subjective universe of our creations and putting them back into ours. Because why not? You've heard of the Tinkerbell effect? The idea that the more you believe in something, the more it becomes a reality. And when you stop believing in it, it ceases to literally exist. This video might get somewhat dark and go to uncomfortable places, but let's get right into it. In our world, we seem to have three flavors of assassinations. Your garden variety political assassinations, think Ricin and Lee Harvey Oswald in the Texas School Book Depository. The dark web hired contracts, and possibly paid high targets from professionals, used by crime syndicates. I doubt it's anything like the movies, though. There can be overlap, but that's about it. And side note, I am most definitely on a list after researching all of this. The types of assassinations in the games are different, though. They are the ideological clashes between two shadowy groups in a clandestine tug-of-war for power. In the Assassin's Creed world, taking out a member of the Templars shuts down whatever operations that member was engaged in, cauterizing the Hydra head. They give a taste of it within the games on how the Abstergo versus assassins operate in the modern world. It leads me to 3 questions. Number 1. Number 2. And finally, would somebody without knowledge of surveillance, high technology, and modern weaponry be able to pick it up quickly enough to effectively assassinate targets in the 21st century? So for number 1, does Renaissance ethics conform to the modern world? Could someone from 1472 effectively navigate a world like ours? Because it's one thing to take someone from their time and expect them to survive, but for them to thrive, that's a whole nother chronological beast. Let me put it to you this way. If any of us were taken to, let's say, medieval times, with their whole different point of view on justice, power, equality, could we even make it a month without running afoul of some feudal lord or clergyman? I doubt it. But I think if you took a certain type of person, say an Italian merchant around the 1470s, specifically someone like Ezio or his father, someone who was taking part of a modern experiment themselves, and placed them in the 21st century, they could thrive with a little startup help. And these guys are Florentine bankers, like double entry, credit in one column, debit in the other, Renaissance men, friends with Leonardo. Yo, they fuck with the future. I feel like he could. Like, give him 12 hours and just sit him down and go through the internet and have him read everything. First, you'd have to, like, I don't know, you could translate. You could Google Translate all the stuff he needs to read. But yeah, just sit him down, have him read. I think he'd be good. I think he'd pick it up. I think he's one of the few people in history that could pick it up. There's probably only a handful of those. I'm wondering what some other ones are. But yeah, definitely Leonardo. Einstein too. He could probably just send him 2,000 years back in time, send him 500 years in the future. He'd be good. And Machiavelli? Dude is literally the father of modern political science, realpolitik, basing politics on practical objectives, not on ideals or ethics. And of course, Machiavelli's idea of virtù. According to Machiavelli, virtù includes pride, bravery, skill, forcefulness, and an amount of ruthlessness coupled with the willingness to do evil when necessary. That sounds like the assassinations in the game to me. Maybe I'm wrong, though.
I can't imagine how you did it. Virtù, Machiavelli. Virtù.
But speaking of politics and assassinations, let's move on to point 3. There are, unfortunately, many modern examples of political assassinations to choose from. Haitian President Jovenel Moïse in 2021, where U.S. prosecutors alleged was partially planned in the States. Egyptian President Anwar Sadat, or Indira Gandhi, murdered by the Sikh bodyguards she trusted, come to mind. But in the sake of analyzing one with a little more time behind it, I feel like the assassination of President John F. Kennedy would be a more apropos analysis of assassin tactics. The tactics of studying your target, infiltrating using stealth, would still work like it does in the games. But the idea of escape using parkour in our world is somewhat unbelievable. Maybe in a Kowloon-walled city, or some kind of East Asian megacity / European stone's throw hits grandma hanging laundry metropolis. But in wide-open Texas ranch land, only a Carcano rifle would do. How does one time travel to kill? In our world, there is no eagle vision. And in the early 60s, eye-in-the-sky drones aren't even a twinkle in the military-industrial complexes. Well, eye. An assassin trained for stealth and hidden blades could not get close enough to then just get away. Hence the need for guns. But then again, every single president that was assassinated was by a gun, and the perpetrators never got away. Disaffected anarchists were Soviet Marxist sympathizers with American-style weaponry. John Wilkes Booth fled the theater, while Lee Harvey Oswald fled to one. I understand this counterfactual borders on the offensive, by playing fast and loose with history. But since the American government never adequately explained what happened, and kept intelligence from the public, they make it hard not to speculate. One shooter with 2 bullets, or 2 from the grassy knoll. Back and to the left, dead on arrival at Parkland Hospital. Warren Commission and CIA shadow play. Never get in the way of a good war. There's actually a disputed quote from Kennedy stating, and I quote, "I will splinter the CIA in 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds." Imagine even in the semi-secrecy of a personal conversation, talking about getting biblical and wiping from the face of the earth arguably the most powerful spy organization that ever existed. Everything is not permitted.